Welcome to the very first episode of Earthwatch, coming to you from the Two Oceans Aquarium here in Cape Town, the show where we bring you your weekly dose of fun and fascinating stuff you need to know about the planet.
Coming up in today's show, the plight of the humble honeybee, an incredible encounter between a python and the engine of a car, and some handy tips about how you can clean out your garage.
But first, there is no denying it. Climate change is happening and it's affecting nature in a myriad of ways. Here's a look at what's happening to the ocean, how rising seas are affecting beachfront property, and whether you should be worried. This is Sea Point 75 years ago. This is Sea Point today. And this is what scientists predict Sea Point could look like in another 75 years.
This is a projection for the end of the century, okay? We don't want to scare people with this idea, but the fact is that every few millimeters a year across the planet eventually could lead to quite a catastrophic event close to the shore, especially when you couple that with a severe storm.
According to the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the sea is rising by an average of 3 to 4 millimeters a year. The blue line on this graph predicts a scenario with effective climate mitigation. The red, a scenario with further unabated growth of emissions. However, a study by 90 sea level experts from 18 countries believes the estimates are conservative. But if you don't live near the beach, why should you care?
If you have a lot of money, you want to plan for the future. If you are very poor and you don't know where your next meal's coming from, then you don't really worry about the future. And this is very obvious in South Africa, where we have so many people that really can't even find the next meal. They are, quite honestly, not going to worry about these things. So we have to target those people and make them realize that it may not affect them today, but it may affect them in the future.
According to experts, the reason our seas are rising is because the temperature's increasing.
The atmosphere is heating up due to global warming. We're putting more fossil fuels into the atmosphere. We're warming the atmosphere. That heat has to go somewhere, and a lot of that heat goes into the ocean. So the oceans are also warming up. Now, what happens to seawater if you warm it up? It expands.
Here's a breakdown of the components influencing rising seas. Geocentric sea level refers to land that shifts up and down, affecting sea level. South Africa is considered tectonic. Our land doesn't move. Ocean properties are temperature, salinity, and density, which all affect the currents. And hydrological cycle is the water that evaporates from the ocean into the atmosphere and then returns to the land or sea as rain. Scientists use satellites and tide gauges to measure the rise in sea level. Tide gauges are instruments in ports around the world that measure the amount of water below a ship in order to take an average sea level reading. And even though the data shows a slow but steady increase, experts say there's no need to panic yet.
Humans' greatest moment is actually just on the horizon. I really believe that. And the reason I say that is because we have the ability to adapt. The point is that if we adapt to rising sea levels, we know not to build close to the coast because inevitably you're going to have issues, erosion, storm surge from hurricanes and typhoons. You just look at the Philippines or Hurricane Katrina in the United States. Those are prime examples of storms getting more intense and sea level rise at the same time, just obliterating those coastlines.
But when I asked the experts whether they would buy beachfront property...
That's a very good question. I think that I would be skeptical about it, actually.
Definitely not.
The health of the honeybee is under threat worldwide. These tiny creatures are so essential to our survival that scientists have started genetically modifying them to try and find the perfect genetic combination to make the perfect bee. Amy spent a day with a commercial honeybee farmer to find out what the situation is here at home. She's got the buzz.
McIntyre has been keeping bees since he was 10 years old. This is not just the business he took over from his grandfather, it's his life.
Great. They're amazing.
I wish they were this big so that I could stroke them.
Not everybody shares his passion.
Vandalism is a huge problem. There's a certain sect that believe the bees are God's, the honey's theirs, and the beehive is mine.
This and a diminishing food source are the two main factors threatening bees in South Africa. The eucalyptus tree is a bee's best friend. Over 70% of South Africa's honey comes from these trees. But they're alien vegetation, and over the last 50 years, nearly 2/3 of eucalyptus trees have been chopped down. If we lose these trees, we lose the bees. And this could be catastrophic, as bees are responsible for pollinating nearly half of all the food we eat.
If we lose our fruit crop, it's not only a few 100,000 jobs that are gone, it's a hell of a lot more than that. It'll work all the way down right to the banks. So these eucalyptus trees are the most important plants in the country.
Government has taken heed of this situation, and fortunately for beekeepers, new legislation is currently being pushed through to protect eucalyptus trees in the Western Cape. And bee colonies here are relatively healthy for now. Not so in Europe and the US, where up to 80% of bees are dying in some parts. Nobody knows for sure what's causing this colony collapse disorder, but it's believed to be a combination of harmful pesticides and a lack of natural forage. Bees are being artificially fed, and without the nutrients they need from pollen, they're starving to death. Global scientists are scurrying to find a solution.
The scientists are now talking about developing a super bee based on the African bee, but they're trying to instill the honey-producing quality of the Italian bee into that bee. But
So there's talk of creating an artificial bee then?
yeah, a super bee that will be able to override all these sicknesses, but I have my doubts.
The decline in bees internationally means real raw honey is getting harder to come by. McIntyre warns a lot of honey on our shelves is synthesized and says don't buy a jar of honey if you can't identify on the label where it came from.
And here's a roundup of recent international environmental news.
Australia's new policy towards sharks continues to cause worldwide outrage. The Catch and Kill program was introduced last month by the government in the hope of reducing shark attacks in Western Australia. There have been 7 fatal shark attacks in that state in the last 3 years. Baited drums with hooks will remain a kilometre from the shore until the beginning of May, with contracted fishermen shooting the sharks caught. The South African government has come out in opposition to this policy. The Pope has a new project. He is scribing an encyclical, which is the highest form of papal writing. The subject is one close to his heart: man's relationship with nature. It's too early to tell when the document will be completed, but it should be a good read, as he has made many appeals in defense of the environment since his election last March. And good news for us greenies is that it could have worldwide consequences, as 1.2 billion Catholics pay attention to what he has to say. And over 800 police came down hard on an illegal gold mining area in Peru. The region borders the Amazon, and the illegal activities have caused massive deforestation up to 2 kilometers wide.
If your garage is anything like mine and it's currently being used for everything except what it should be used for, which is parking your car, then this week's tip of the week is for you. Here are some ideas for decluttering your garage the environmentally friendly way.
Did you know that for every ton of paper that's recycled, 17 trees are saved from being cut down? So you can roll up old magazines and place them in your boots in order to keep the shape of the leather, vinyl or suede. Shredded magazines also make great filler for packing delicate items or gifts. Failing those two options, you can drop them off at a doctor's waiting room or in your nearest recycling bin. mywaste.co.za allows you to enter your address and select what you need to recycle from the list, and then provides a map and directions to your nearest drop-off point. It also provides details of local buyback points. Who wouldn't want some cash in exchange for a bit of recycling? Bicycles and old sports equipment can be used for quirky decor or household items, such as this dog leash made from an old bike tube. Alternatively, Sports Gift is a charity that distributes used sporting equipment to underprivileged children around the world. Think your old appliance has no life left? Groups like Free Cycle No Rules on Facebook allows you to give away something you're no longer using in exchange for something else advertised on the site. Lastly, remember that some paints are highly toxic and environmentally unfriendly, so don't just ditch your old can anywhere. Rather, use some cat litter to dry the paint out and dispose of the can safely.
Here at Earthwatch, we're always on the lookout for interesting environmental footage, like this penguin here at the Two Oceans Aquarium. But he is a special case, so don't try this at home. Send us your interesting footage that you think should be on the show. This week, Kruger Sightings sent us the following visuals taken by the Campbell-Harris family, which may make you rethink stopping your car to watch an African python.
Just a normal sighting of an African python in Kruger National Park. Or is it? This confident snake makes a beeline for the car and then disappears. The group moves to a safer area to investigate where the python went. Seems the only thing this venomless snake wanted was a warm spot to raise its body temperature, but did not enjoy all the attention that came with his choice.
That was incredible.
And now for my favorite part of the show, and not because we're going to say goodbye.
Who can resist these absolutely adorable zooborns? We'll leave you this week with a look at who's new in the zoo from around the world. Catch you next time.
Take care.